and a pressing issue that's affecting many Nigerians now, the rising cost of rice. Rice is definitely considered a staple food in Nigeria, but recent developments have led to concerns about its affordability and availability in the near future. Now we delve into the factors contributing to this issue and its potential impact on the people and economy of Nigeria. Joining us now is Mr. Mohammed Isiaku, Managing Director, Gerawa Rice Mills Limited, joining me from our Kano studios. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. So we're seeing prices of rice. Well, fantastic. Great to have you. We're seeing the prices of rice rise from 2022. We're seeing rice now at about 60,000 naira per 50 kg. That's a big jump from where we were at 2022. Can you paint a picture of the update of what's happening now? We know India, they did ban exports of rice, and that also trickled down to impact rice importation right here in Nigeria. Paint a picture of what's happening now with rice.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for having me. Actually, the ban of importation by India does not necessarily contribute much to the rise of prices of our rice in Nigeria. What is actually happening is the gap between demand and supply. As a country, our demand is falls about 11 million metric tons per annum. What we produce as a nation is about 6.8 million naira. 6.8 million metric tons, per annum of rice paddy. So definitely that gap between the demand and the supply will create that pressure and spike in price of rice. That's one factor. Then second factor is this issue of climate change that is actually affecting all the farms across the nation. Cases of flood, cases of birds attacking rice farms. So that also further creates shortage in the supply of paddy rice in Nigeria. If you cast your mind back, you can now see that over the first 3-4 years, there has been ban in importation of rice in Nigeria. Yet Nigeria as a nation continued to thrive in terms of rice production. But what happened last year was actually majorly from these climatic issues, flood that affect a lot of farmlands across the north, in the corridor of around Kebbi State, some birds attack on the produce, and issues like that.
So talking about the floods now, it seems like these issues are quite seasonal. Is this something that will go away with the season?
Yes, we have collective responsibility to address these climatic issues, because one of the ways to address these issues is, basically when it comes to rice production, we have two basic seasons, the wet season and the dry season. So what is more reliable is the dry season production. And I think that is what we need to focus more on, whereby you have control over the channels of water, you have control over so many other inputs that can help you produce more. But traditionally the wet season, we tend to get more produce over it. But as we are seeing over the last few years, farmers will now go plant, waiting for the harvest time. All of a sudden, the flood will come and now wash away the farmlands, So wasting a lot of resources and creating further shortage in the food chain in that aspect of
I'm talking about the flood issue right now. Are you guys thinking about some kind of technology that can help with, managing the flood issue right now? Is that being discussed, like with people like you? Because I know you're a miller.
Yes. Okay. Issue of technology investment in farmland, cannot be overemphasized. Investing in technology in the farmland would further help this. You know, when we have technology that can be able to predict when this flood is going to come, and when is the right time for planting, when is the right time for harvesting. Because what happens, a lot of time people plant late. So, you know, before the time of harvest, this flood will now come and now wash away. So it goes a long way to educate these farmers, you know, and those in the primary production of rice, to understand the timing, and to also understand that these are the time that the rainwater comes, and that these are the time that we are likely to have flood that will come and affect the produce. So, you know, and that enlightenment will go a long way in educating the farmers and now saving the country with that wastage that is being created by the climate.
And definitely, as a miller, you need, you know, ample supply of paddy at this point. Do you have any other avenues opening up for you to get, you know, reliable supply of paddy?
Our paddy supply comes from across the country. We have basically 3 corridors in the north. In the northwest, we have the corridor of KB State that goes down to Kamba. In the northeast, we have the Taraba State, Adamawa State corridor, and in the north central, we have the Nasarawa State corridor. These are areas that produce rice, and we rely on these geographical areas to get the supply of paddy. And what is good is that, you know, the production comes as one corridor is beginning to harvest, and the harvest is coming to an end. That is when the other side picks up. So, you know, the supply comes from across this region. So what we need to mind, you understand, as a people collectively in Nigeria, is to make sure that there is a connect, you know, between this region. The agrarians need to come, you understand, come up with data, come up with solutions that will help us aggregate as much as we need in order to continue to mill this rice and produce rice to the nation.
Right. Let's look at funding now. I did see headlines a while back that for the Anchor Borrowers program, we see that the CBN is at this time trying to get back most of those loans, get them repaid, you know, at this time. And I see some farmers already lamenting, you know, at this point. Do you think the farmers didn't have enough time to pay back these loans?
Okay, Metras, I don't want to go into the financial aspect of, you know, farming, because for me, I'm a miller. And that Anchor program normally targets the primary producers, which is the farm owners.
I did hear some millers got funding too at some point.
Oh yeah, we do. But we now mention the Anchor Borrower program, which normally deals with the aggregators, whereby they group some people, monitor the activities of their farming, and now take up the produce. Much as we don't, as a company, engage in the primary production of rice, but I have the understanding that, in a way, if there is one good thing that Anchor Borrower program did, it spikes the initiation of primary rice production across all villages in Nigeria. Because if you look years before the initiative of the Anchor Borrower program, you find that only a few crops of farmers engage in active rice farming, which one of the challenges is access to funding, which, as we all know. So now when that window of finance was freed and open, people now had access to funding so that they can now mobilize these resources to their farmlands and be able to produce. And that is why we now source our raw material for us to mill and produce the final product in the country.
All right, Mr. Asaku, before I let you go, what kind of interventions would you like to see, you know, from the government at this time? And tell me, what do you see the price of rice at the end of the year?
First of all, the intervention, I want the government to actually focus on the primary production. One, in terms of technology. Two, in terms of advisory services. Technology, when you take a common farmer in the village today, cultivating 1 hectare of land, he'll probably get like 8 tons, or on the average 7.5 to 8 tons per season. So what technology are we going to deploy to these farmers and advisory services so that the land they are cultivating can be able to produce much more than we are getting? Because when you look at the world data, like in China, the hectarage they are cultivating and what the yield they are getting is far, far, far more than what we are getting today. Even if you compare China with India, China is ahead. Because in absolute number, you'll find that China produced about 214 million tons of paddy per annum, using only 153 acres or hectares of land, while India uses 129 hectares to produce 172. In Nigeria, we use 34 hectares, million hectares to be able to produce 6.8 million metric ton of rice. So maximizing the output using the same resources will go a long way. So the government needs to really coordinate this activity, educate the farmers, deploy necessary resources, advisory services, so that these farmers can understand that with minimum resources, they can get maximum yield on their farmland.
Right.
So we really need to focus on that.
And what do you see the price of rice at the end of the year?
Thank God. Price of rice will definitely come down.
Right.
Because if you take like the last 30 days, where we've been bedeviled by the shortage of paddy in the country, this issue is now being eased gradually. Because when you now go around Kano City, which fortunately we are becoming one of the leading rice milling corridors in the country, you find out that a lot of raw materials, paddy, is coming to our factories. That shows a very good signal that we will continue to get these raw materials. And the more we get these raw materials, the more we produce, the more it will now address that demand that will now cushion the price effect. So I see the price of rice coming down in a very short while. And thank God this is the wet season. And immediately the wet season ends, we roll into the dry season harvest, which is like more assured.
Right.
So, and year in, year out, we get increase in the output that comes out of the dry season across the country. So with that hope, I see the price of rice coming down from possibly the next 3 weeks and going down throughout the year.
Fantastic. As long as there's light at the end of the tunnel, because you don't want to play with our jollof rice and our condiments we make with rice when the holidays come. Thank you so much. It was great having your perspective. Mr. Mohammed Isiaku, Managing Director, Gerwa Rice Mills Limited. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.